Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the iHeartRadio network, the #1 media network in the United States of America. And also Charlton and Big C Sports are voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and his good old boys down south, Big C. Of course, the Raiders from the black hole, they might be a little bit chilled on ice, Big C, the same way you good old boys like your moonshine, from what I understand. I also want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America. We thank you so much for following Charlton and Big C Sports on the iHeartRadio network, all the way across the pond in London, England, and Paris, France. And of course, our good old boys from Canada. Love you so much, Canada. But we love no one more than the good old boys in the land of the free and the home of the brave. How you good old boys doing down south, Big C?
We're hanging together down here, you know. It's another day in paradise. Life can't get no better than being free, running to the moon, driving to people's cars, you know,
Yeah.
a little sip of liquid gold and stuff, you know, that you guys call other stuff out there on the way.
Liquid gold is called something else out here in California, Big C. I don't think you should be drinking that stuff.
Well, ours have the bubbly in it, you know.
Okay.
And when you open the top, you know, it's all full of flesh.
I understand.
Yours are just a release of other things and stuff.
Okay. Well, the liquid gold, the good old boys poured me the black hole at the Coliseum. That didn't have bubbles in it, Big C. That was something else, but I'm still afraid to go find out what it was, Big C. But I want to say thank everyone for listening in. Today is a beautiful December the 8th, 2016, one day after they celebrated the memories of Pearl Harbor, and so many Americans fought and lost their lives in that. But we have a great country. We are the land of the free and the home of the brave. But we know that freedom comes with a price, Big C. And I'm so happy about this show tonight because we have a playoff atmosphere in the NFL, and we always talk about maybe get rid of Thursday night game. And I think they should, Big C, because of the health of the players is always a little bit questioned. But tonight's game, everybody's looking forward to this. And speaking of everybody, this segment is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive one, tell them that Charlton and Big C sent you. And of course, Big C's has mud all over it. But I guess you good old boys, there might be ice on it, Big C, because the Raiders are playing in the frigid cold in Kansas City, Missouri. Your thoughts on that game coming up, Big C?
Well, Charlton, this will be one of those games that be a test of fortitude. You know, going out playing in sub-freezing elements, Charlton.
Yeah.
You expect the wind chill factor to be about 14 at kickoff, so that's bone chilling, and they expect
Yeah.
to drop into the teens.
Yeah.
The actual temperature, you know, by the end of the game. So, you know, it's going to test players, Charlton. You know, that manhood will be tested because the body just doesn't function as well in sub-freezing temperatures, Charlton. And, you know, the worst thing you can do as a player is go over there and get attached to that heater.
Yeah.
Because sometimes your butt don't want to walk away from it. So
Yeah, that's funny, Big C.
you're more motivated to get back to it than you are to sit on the field.
That's funny, Big C. Sometimes, guys, that is true because the body's better off when it's warm. When the body's running around and you have that internal heat mechanism working, that's great. It's only when you're standing on the sidelines or if you're sitting in the stands that you feel that frozen temperature. When you're playing, yeah, sometimes your feet may get numb and sometimes you can't feel your limbs, but you're actually warmer because you are moving around. But you're all right. Why don't they have the heater on the sideline anyway to help you get comfortable like you're sitting in your good old lap? You know, the good old, what do they call those chairs you guys sit in? The good old boys? What do they call? The big boys.
We call them lounge.
Okay, lounge chairs. Yeah, instead of a lounge chair, have guys run around and stay in shape. But I just want to say this before we get into the NFL. Had a lot of good things happening in the world of basketball also. And I think when you look at basketball, the Golden State Warriors in this rivalry that they have with the LA Clippers out here on the West Coast. I know you guys back south, you have Miami and maybe Orlando, and you have those teams, Atlanta, and sometimes they'll have something with Charlotte or Cleveland and whoever they play, Big C. But I love Doc Rivers. I love the way he coaches. I love his mannerisms. I love him as a person. And the Clippers, I thought that they would be able to challenge Golden State this year, not looking at that blowout preseason game they had in Oakland, Big C, but it just looked like they were just shellacked last night, even at home at Staples Center, Big C. Your thought?
Well, Charlton, you know, why don't we just bypass the regular season and get on to Cleveland and Golden State in the finals? That's what everybody's waiting on. They're waiting on May and June to show show up.
Yeah.
So they can get to the NBA championship game. You know, these 82 games in between is just, you know, fanfare.
Yeah.
More than anything else. You know, when you look, you know, here the Clippers, lost 7 consecutive games now?
Yeah, I think they lost 5 of the last 7 now.
Okay, well, actually 6. They've lost 6.
Oh, 6, yeah. 6 of the last 7. Yeah.
So when you think about this team that just 2 weeks ago had the best record in the NBA.
Yeah.
You know, and how fast the mighty have fallen. But, you know, the Golden State Warriors are a team in transition, Johnson. And what I mean by that, this is a team that's learning to play together again.
Yeah.
When you think about it, they lost 2 key players from last year's roster, but they brought in Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
And so everybody had to get used to handling the ball less and letting someone else take the pressure off that night from the other scores. You know, we saw Klay Thompson a couple of nights ago score 60 points.
Amazing.
You know, one of the greatest games of shooting in NBA history. But, you know, Kevin Durant can light it up. We've seen Steph Curry, you know, set a 3-point record.
Yeah.
Game already this year. So this is a team of versatility and talent. And that's what's frightening about it, Charlton. They're only going to get better as the season goes on.
Yeah.
And so we might as well just get to the point of what everybody's expecting. You know, Golden State and Cleveland, even though there's some great teams in the NBA, you think about the San Antonio Spurs, Charlton.
Yeah.
They won 12 in the last 13 games.
Yeah.
You know, there's some talent out there. The Cleveland Cavaliers are dominating the East. They really don't have a challenge in the Eastern Division. You know, when you think about it in totality, the Memphis Grizzlies at times can be sparked.
Yeah, at times.
They lost Mike Conley, you know, their point guard, so that's going to leave them lacking. We know what Russell Westbrook does in Oklahoma City.
Oh, yeah.
But there's too many gaps within the NBA, Charlton, between the good teams and the teams in the league.
Well, big.
And so you concentrate on the good teams.
Yeah, you always do that. And, you know, when you talk about Thompson, the way he went for, was it 60 points? That was in 29 minutes. Well,
29 minutes, Charles.
Yeah, well, wasn't it? Yeah, 29 minutes. Now, wasn't it the great Wilt Chamberlain? Did he average 50 points or 56 points a game, Big C?
For a season, his NBA record is 54 points a game in one season, Charles. But also, people forget.
Yeah.
When he averaged 54 points a game, he also averaged 24 rebounds a game that season.
Wow.
So when you talk about the ultimate dominant player, and they say, you know, the greatest of all time, nobody will ever eclipse or even get close to what Wilt did at that time, just like with Oscar with the triple-double.
Yeah.
We have Westbrook racing that, Charlton, but I don't know if he can withstand that for 82 games.
Yeah, it's going to be tough to do that. But see, the thing about the great Wilt Chamberlain, that a lot of people, when you have someone like Thompson hits for 60 points, I think Kobe hit 60 on his final game, Big C. It's all over SportsCenter. It's all over everybody's news story, print media, social media, on Twitter, it's every place. Imagine getting that kind of play every night out of Wilt Chamberlain, hitting 54, and that's before he got to the gym, Big C, because I hear he had a live social life too, Big C, but he actually hit 54 on average. That's amazing for one man to do that. That's before the era of all of this. I won't say anything negative here, but we have these enhancements now that lets guys and athletes play better and stronger and recover faster. And you know what I mean, Big C? It's not always something people talk about.
Not just the enhancements. Think about it. There was no three-point shot.
Yeah, no three-point shot.
When Kobe scored, you know, the 60 points in his final game,
Yeah.
there was a three-point shot. When he had the 82-point game, Charlton,
Yeah.
there was a three-point shot. When Michael Jordan scored 63 against the Celtics,
Yeah.
back in the 80s, there was a three-point shot. So these are the things that people don't understand, the greatness of a Wilt Chamberlain, the greatness of a Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. We're talking about centers
Yeah.
who are 1-2 in NBA history in scoring. And they didn't shoot the three-point shot, Charlton. Most of their points were gotten in the paint and from the free throw line. So when you talk about the dominance of a player, anybody can go out there and knock down the three. I mean, Ralph Sampson used to do it.
Oh, yeah.
When he was in Houston.
Yeah.
So the three-point can be overrated or it can be exciting.
Yeah.
You know, we see what Steph Curry does with it. You know, he doesn't even have to get in the paint and have 30 points.
Yeah.
So when you think about a player who made his living dragging other big 7-footers up and down the court all night long, Charlton.
Yeah.
You know, having his body hung on and fouled continuously.
Yeah.
And scoring those type of points. This is why when we talk about the TV era of fans being knowledgeable of the sport,
Yeah.
the ESPN generation, Charlton, because that's how they've learned the game instead of being aficionados and students of the game, knowing the greatness of those former players, Elgin Baylor, who was an 11-time All-Star with the Los Angeles Lakers, the logo for the NBA, Jerry West, who was as good a guard that ever played the game.
Oh, amazing.
About him.
Yeah.
You know, averaged 25 24 points a game throughout his career.
Yeah.
So, these players were outstanding during their era, Charles.
And Barry did it without the three-point shot, too. I mean, you look at Barry when he played up at Golden State, and you look at all of these great players, and we talk about the great Larry Birds and the great Magic Johnsons, and there's a lot of people think, a lot of the young kids think, well, Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, that series, East Coast versus West Coast, Boston versus LA, beat LA and, beat Boston. They thought those guys made basketball great. They made television great, Big C, but basketball had a lot of great players that you just talked about, Big C. Your thoughts?
You think about Rick Barry, you just spoke about Rick Barry. He's a guy who was a lifetime 94% free-throw shooter.
Yeah.
You think about that. That's concentration and working on your craft to average 94% from the free throw line, and that's only second best in the NBA.
Yeah.
You think about it. That's only second best. He shot it up and
Yeah.
A 5'9" guard who spent 13 years with the Houston Rockets.
Yeah.
Holds the NBA record for free throw shooting in a lifetime at 96%. And he did this over 13 years in the league, Charlton.
Yeah.
There are so many dominant, outstanding players during that era. You think about a Dominique Wilkins, who people, goes in the shadow of Michael Jordan and other players, but one of the greatest leapers of all time and scores.
Yeah.
He averaged in the mid-20s throughout his NBA career. And a great guard that many people don't realize that he played 10 years in the league. Unfortunately, his career was cut short by drug problems. His name was Michael Ray Richardson. They called him Sugar.
Oh, yeah.
That's how sweet his game was. He played with the New York Knicks.
Yeah.
This man, he was Magic Johnson before Magic Johnson, Charlton.
Yeah.
He was a 6'5" point guard who had all of what Magic Johnson had. He just didn't have the love affair of the fans, and television hadn't risen to the heights that it did during the Bird, Magic era, Isaiah Thomas players in that genre, Michael Jordan. TV had not gotten as big when Michael Sugar Ray Richardson was playing, but, just great players throughout the history of the game that fans don't know about because ESPN, the people on ESPN, think about it, Charlton, those broadcasters were not even born. The average broadcaster now on ESPN was not born when these players were playing. Especially the females.
Yeah.
Because they only know what the producer puts in their ear and writes on the teleprompter.
Yeah.
And most of the guys also, Charlton, these guys were journalists coming in. They worked on news stations. They weren't sports people growing up. These are people who know how to read. So ESPN has put them behind a teleprompter.
Yeah.
Put a producer's plug in their ear and coach them through a broadcast.
Yeah.
But as a fan, when you sit there, I don't need someone coached in what to say. I want someone who is knowledgeable, who can reach into the annals of the game. Tell me about it.
Yeah.
Let me know what was going on, why it went off, what occurred, what this other player is chasing. He had a phenomenal night, but this hasn't occurred before. It's nothing new.
Yeah.
They talk about Clay, and Clay, like I said, the greatest game for a guard in NBA history, if you think about the minutes.
Yeah.
But it's only the second greatest scoring feat in NBA history based on the percentage of points that you scored during the minutes.
Yeah, and speaking of scoring points, this segment is sponsored by the California Lottery. What can a buck do for you? Go down and spend some money on a lotto ticket, and the money, half of it goes to the school, supposedly, Big C, and I hope the money's going in the right way. I hope that Donald Trump's not in charge of the lottery. That might scare a lot of people because we know that Donald Trump was on CNN, and he was actually, Donald Trump owned the New Jersey Generals, and it's just funny when I say that because he helped bankrupt the league. Okay, the league's out of business now because of the great Donald Trump, Big C. Yeah.
I think the USFL still has the $6 check that they received from the NFL for damages.
Yeah.
A $6 check. So people talk about Donald Trump saving jobs, creating jobs. He bankrupted entire league.
Yeah.
There was a dozen teams in the USFL that went defunct. So Donald Trump was responsible for these teams who had 50 players each.
Yeah.
Okay? 12 teams. Do the math. 600 players.
Yeah.
Unemployed. I'm talking about coaches and staff and groundskeepers and all the auxiliary staff that was involved. But he unemployed, Charlton, thousands of people because of his own personal greed.
Yeah.
And people say, well, he's done a great job. It's like the Courier deal that he did in Ohio. And he did it into a beef over the union rep.
Yeah.
Telling everybody the facts of the deal. That Donald only saved, and he really didn't save. When you give somebody $7 million,
Yeah.
I'll keep 4 or
From what I understand, he understands how to give money, Big C. How do you think he keeps his marriages intact for 3 or 4 years, Big C? He's giving something, or maybe it's just love at first sight. Who knows? Beauty's in the eye of the beholder, Big C.
So when you think about that, I mean, it's great for those people, and trust me, I'm honored that those Americans keep their jobs, but at least be honest about how you kept those Americans at their job, because you're going to cost other Americans their job. It wasn't a fair trade-off.
Yeah, well, see,
because there's still 1,300 courier jobs going to Mexico. Twice as many jobs are still going to Mexico that are going to stay in the U.S. So where was the win-win in that deal? And you gave up $7 million to the company? $7 million and saying I saved jobs? Who pays the $7 million, Charlton, the courier? Where's that money going to come from? Is it going to come from the local, state government? Or is it going to come from the Federal Reserve? It has to come from somewhere, and it didn't come out of Donald's pocket.
Well, ironically about that, when it comes to saving jobs, and he's bragging about a couple hundred jobs, there's almost as many leaving, and guys are going to be laid off on Christmas. Merry Christmas. Thanks for voting for me. Now you got to go find the work. But there was a professor out of the great Michigan State University, African-American guy, and he said that sometimes Americans are so stupid, and we're a bright country, but sometimes we're stupid. Because if I'm going to get on TV and stomp about I'm saving jobs and having people bring jobs back into the country, I'm going to impose a tariff on companies that hire people overseas. Here's a guy that has 28 companies outside of the United States, Big C. Over 150 businesses, 28 are outside the United States. Wouldn't you think it makes sense if he brought his own companies back first, Big C? Would that make sense at all?
Leading by example is the wrong thing. If you're making money on your company's foreign, that you have all these companies and foreign workers outside of the United States, but you're not doing anyone. But I'm going to bring all of my production back into the United States.
No, he's going to impose a tariff on himself, Big C. Isn't that like cutting off your hand to spite your face? He's going to impose a tariff on himself 28 times.
He won't be exempt from the tariff.
Yeah, that's so funny, Big C.
He's talking about doing this to other people. It's almost like when he destroyed the USFL, Charles.
Yeah.
When he said, look, my needs are greater than everybody else.
Yeah.
I understand you owners have started the league, but I'm going to go in and buy up the New Jersey Generals from the owners there because I have the money to give him, so he'll walk away.
Yeah.
And that's what he did. As soon as he walked in, he started going to impose his will. He was going to tell the national networks what they could do and could not do with the league, when they were going to broadcast it. Excuse me? You're like a puppy that nobody wants to let loose on the carpet when they're not in the room. Okay?
That's funny. I still...
You came wrong with the big dog. Donald Trump, they showed him that he was just a puppy in the living room when everybody else was out. And you know what will happen in that situation.
Well, you know what's interesting is I really feel sorry for guys like Mitt Romney, because here's a guy that ran against President Obama, and he came out with his real beliefs of 47% of the people are lazy and they won't do anything. And then he's approaching Donald Trump like he's trying to ask for a date. It's like he's showing up at this rich guy's house hoping that he'll take him in and give him some work, you see. But it's like he's begging, and I thought that's so beneath him because he has his own money. But I guess men will do everything for power. But it's just a shame to see Mitt Romney, who said that Donald Trump was a scam and a fraud, and now he is trying to get a date with the guy, Big C, to be on his administration.
Yeah. You look at all the people who blasted him, Charlton, and now are sucking up wanting to be on his cabinet.
Yeah.
And to have a high political role in this country is a great feat.
Oh, yeah.
Because you get a lifetime pension and care after that.
Yeah.
And all of these guys, it will show the desperation of politicians willing to do anything.
Yeah, well.
To sell out, to sell your soul.
Yeah.
That's basically what they're doing. I think there was a line in the movie Batman, the original Batman, with Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson.
Yeah.
And the Joker, who was Jack Nicholson.
Yeah.
He said, "You ever dance with the devil?"
Yeah.
And that's what I'm reminded of as I see this Marine go in and out of Trump Towers.
Yeah.
You ever dance with the devil?
Yeah.
Because, when you look at what this man stands for, when he ran his platform on, you don't change your rhetoric saying that you change as a person and you change your policy now. When you ignited America and you separated America on racism
Yeah.
and anger.
Yeah.
And you said, "Oh, now I'm a changed man. I'm not going to do that."
Well,
you either lied to your base or you're lying now. Which one is it?
Well,
You going to believe that lie or this lie?
well, the funny thing about Trump, and then we'll touch on some NBA, is I look at the guy who gets on Twitter every day, and he responds to a guy that works for a union, a hard-working blue-collar guy that probably works about 10 hours a day to help take care of his family.
Make that 12, Charles.
Okay, 12 hours to take care of his family, and he's on Twitter as opposed to talking to governors of foreign states, Big C, and it's a shame that this guy's going to have access to nuclear codes, a guy that plays on Twitter, and he's so knee-jerk reaction, he's on Twitter every time someone goes against what he says, and now they're going to hand over the nuclear codes to a guy that has knee-jerk reactions. Well, thank you for voting for me, and I appreciate you, and I hope that keep you safe, Big C. That's a joke to me. And I also want to say this segment is sponsored by United Labor, guaranteed life insurance up to $100,000 with no medical questions. We are also endorsed by the American Heart Association and the American Cancer Society. We are also working with all of the unions, even the gentleman that Trump was tweeting to, under the AFL-CIO. They can get insurance through Life America, our company, and also we work to help everybody get back to work. We're looking to hire over 1,000 licensed insurance brokers. Tweet out the Charlton and Big C Sports. We simply want to put people back to work. And Big C, speaking of putting people back to work, just a few more scores on the NBA before we get into some college football and the big game coming up tonight in Kansas City. I mean, it's going to be a great environment already, a playoff type atmosphere. But last night in the NBA, you had the Sacramento Kings with a 120-89 win over the Dallas Mavericks. Nowitzki did not play. It was Boston 117-87 over Orlando. Charlotte 87, Detroit 77. In Atlanta, the good old boys 103-95 over Miami. It was Brooklyn 116, Denver 111, Cleveland 126, and New York 94. I guess LeBron James took his posse on Broadway and had a good game against the New York Knicks, Big C. And the Houston, they beat up on the Lakers, Big C, 134-95. Milwaukee 115, Portland 107, and Indiana 109, Phoenix 94. Again, the great Golden State Warriors 115-98 over the LA Clippers. One thing I want to ask you about, Big C, and we don't have all the details on it, but I just want to touch base and get your opinion as an athlete. You have to understand you are a target. Now, I'm not saying these guys are right or wrong. I'm not saying they did or did not do, but it has to do with DeMarcus Cousins, and there was another gentleman from the Sacramento Kings that were caught up. They were accused of assault, okay? Now, how do you protect yourself? That's number one, because you should have security when you're out in the public, especially if you're a knucklehead, and we know that there's always some type of issues with him, and also Matt Barnes out of Sacramento actually went to Del Campo High School locally here. But you're always in trouble. Why would someone who's rich and young, who's free, can go anywhere they want to in the world, put yourself in a position to look at prison time just because you're out at a nightclub at 3 o'clock in the morning? Not that they couldn't be, but why put yourself in that environment? Why not have some security around you, so even if you get accused of something? We just saw what Derrick Rose went through. Your thoughts on that, Big C?
Well, Charlton, this shows the mindset of the young athlete nowadays, Charlton. We talk so much about the one-and-done situation at some of these universities where, these coaches come in and promise to take care of these young men, to take them into adulthood.
Yeah.
And they don't. They don't watch them when they're on campus. We saw the sexual scandal that went on at Baylor. We've seen it at Stanford University also. And so when these guys are out there without mentorship, without guidance, and you have all this excess time, Charlton, with all this excess wealth, that you can do anything that you want. And that's what has occurred with so many of these young men, Charlton, is that they put themselves in situations of vulnerability.
Yeah.
And when you're taller than everybody else in the room, you draw people to you.
Yeah.
And advancements that you may want or do not want, Charlton, but at times they turn catastrophically wrong.
Yeah.
And that's what we've seen in too many incidents, Charlton, where professional athletes have been allegedly accused of these heinous incidents over time. But the thing that I always draw from it, Charlton, is not that they're being arrested, is that they're being sued for money.
Yeah.
So I always question the scenario. You don't trust law enforcement, but you trust an attorney.
Yeah.
Let's sue the guy for $20 million.
Yeah.
Let's sue the guy for $12 million. No, I don't want him to be arrested.
Right.
I don't want justice served. I want finances served.
Yeah.
So I question any one of these incidents, and I'm not saying that these athletes are innocent or may not have been.
We don't know. We don't know.
Because because the only people that know are the people that were involved, them and the person.
Yeah.
But the thing that I do know, Charlton, that these situations with these lawsuits are wrong when you come after athletes. You know, they're saying, okay, he's got money. And now, I look at the situation with Derrick Rose when he was sued.
Yeah.
Now, he was boyfriend, girlfriend, allegedly, with the girl.
Yeah.
The two other guys who were involved in the incident were just friends of his, so
Yeah.
they didn't have no money.
Right.
So she sued an ex-boyfriend for the $20 million instead of having him arrested. I'll just sue you for $20 million because I know you have a $100 million contract.
Yeah.
So give me $20 million. I want 20% of what you got.
Yeah.
You know, that's where I am. I'm not, and she didn't sue the other guys, so.
No.
That was the thing. That's what gets me all the time when these people come in and sue an athlete, and you're saying it's about justice. It reminds me back when Michael Jackson was being sued all the time. It wasn't that people were trying to prosecute him.
Yeah.
People were always trying
To settle out of court.
Yeah, let's have a day in court. That's what the American justice system was built on, Charlton. The innocence of a person until proven guilty.
Yeah.
But now it's gone to the point. Let's see how much money this person got. If it's a deep pocket person, you're going to end up in civil court, Charlton.
Yeah.
Not in criminal court, civil court. Now, that's unjust. And the thing about it, you bring this civil suit against somebody, Charlton.
Yeah.
You lose this civil suit. What does it cost you? Nothing.
Yeah.
Because you're the accuser. It costs you nothing. It's not like you have to go in your pocket and pull out $20 million and give it to the person that you accused.
Yeah.
You know, but here it is. They're stuck on the ropes. Their livelihood, their reputation, and other things may be lost. We saw that with Tiger Woods.
Yeah.
When he was accused of things, even though he didn't commit a crime.
No, he didn't commit a crime. He was out there. He was out there doing what a lot of guys do, Big C. But I think the media, because his wife was Caucasian, they didn't want to see a black guy with a Caucasian woman in the first place. And then when he's outside doing whatever the other white boys were doing, they told on Tiger Woods like he's the only guy in the history of the world to ever have a wife and girlfriends. That runs, I mean, that's part of being a movie star and an athlete. They call it sex, drugs, and rock and roll, Big C.
Ray Boggs, former all-star third baseman with the Boston Red Sox.
Yeah.
For over a decade, paraded his mistress around on all road trips.
Yeah.
His wife and kids stayed at home, and the mistress traveled. Everybody on the team called her his road wife.
Yeah.
And she was very proud of that.
Yeah.
You know, she eventually did a spread in Playboy after, their relationship broke up because the money ran short. But it was okay for Wade Boggs to do that. Steve Garvey, former first baseman of the Los Angeles Dodgers, had that same alleged incident.
Yeah.
And I remember his wife talking about it on Johnny Carson's show one night during the late Johnny Carson's life.
Well, Big C.
This has gone out throughout the history, but when it's a minority player, Charles,
Yeah.
think about it. Tiger Woods had the same impact on the golf world and the sports world that President Obama had on America and the world.
Yeah.
And look how both of them were fought against. Tiger's always been fought against for potentially breaking Jack's record.
Yeah.
Those are supposed to be hollow ground. All of a sudden, President Obama's in the White House.
Yeah.
Hollow ground in American white society sanctuary. How the hell did you let this black man come in here?
Yeah.
And you think about the Republican Senate said from day one, we're not going to agree with anything that this man does. Now, this is the president of the United States you're talking about, Jonathan, that half of our society said we're going to work every day to make his presidency miserable and everything we can do to get him
And you know what? You know the irony there, Big C, is they were not told to shut up and get the hell out of the country. That's the thing about it. And when you tie sports into politics, all of the athletes go to the White House again. You have guys not wanting to stay in the Trump Towers, but it's all part of the real talk. That's why we call Charlton and Big C Sports Real Talk, because you're only going to get it real here. You can hear other things on other sports programs, but we're not so dumb that we can only talk about who won the game. Hey, Big C, guess who won the game last night, Big C? That's not what you tune in for here, Big C. Sometimes I feel like that after I drink that moonshine you sent out to me, Big C. I slur my speech sometimes. But, I just want to say that everybody out there, have a brain and think sometimes. You still got to watch the documentary 13th. It's only on Netflix. It's great for all the people for the holidays, Big C. So hopefully they can sit around and watch that, Big C. Before I get to this next segment, I have some very popular things to talk about that you've been talking about for the whole year. It just happens to show up all over the media today, Big C. And I just want to say This segment is sponsored by One Life America Life Insurance. We're the leaders in the country when it comes to final expense, and we're looking to hire over 1,000 licensed insurance brokers because we simply want to put people back to work. Tweet out to Charlton and Big C Sports. If you're looking for work, you can always go onto all these job sites that are out there and hope that somebody gives you a call. But on the iHeartRadio network, we're telling you, we can train you, get you ready for work, and you actually can have a job inside of the United States. Unlike Donald Trump, you got to go outside of the country, Big C. You can have your job here right at home in the land of the free and the home of the brave. And thinking of the land of the free and the home of the brave, something you've been talking about, Big C, I think it's so egregious when we talked about slavery at times, we talk about Jim Crow, we talk about, racism and sexism and all the different isms that we have in this country. And that's part of what makes us great. We all can agree and disagree. We're talking about this college football playoff system. Everybody's salivating on who's going to win the Heisman Trophy, who's going to win the national championship. You know what? We need 8 games now. And they're never talking about playing the black athlete. It's almost like they're still living in Jim Crow. It's almost like they just sharecroppers where they put in their labor for money, Big C. Now, something that came out, and you've talked about it for the last year, and I'm proud of you for doing it because I thought, well, I was dumb at one time. I said, well, they get an education. Well, they get exploited is what they get. There's $1 million club that's growing in college football. $1 million is growing, what we're trying to hit in that lottery, Big C. 12 assistant coaches, 12 in the United States of America at Division I colleges are making $1 million. Nearly 200 are making over $400,000. Most of them are white. Most of the athletes that are generating the money, the motor in the car that car that you tried to sell me back in the day, Big C, when I was struggling in college, it didn't have an engine in it. I didn't realize that it wouldn't start, but I kept turning it. They said, Curry, you don't have an engine in that thing. So you and Donald Trump are really good businessmen, okay? But that engine that runs this billion-dollar football industry, these good old boy institutions that are run by white men, that means once they have a game played, they're not suffering from CTE. They're not suffering from a cracked rib. They don't have to go inject steroids in their body so they can compete with the next good strong stud they're bringing in from the next state. They don't have to do anything but cash the check, Big C, and call a couple of plays. No talk of money, not even $1 for these African-American athletes, and some white too, but most of them are black, especially for the top teams in the country. And they're bragging about how there's nearly 200 assistant coaches that are making over $400,000 a year, Big C. That is egregious.
Jonathan, we sit around and we've talked extensively about the money that flows to the NCAA and the lack of compensation for the athletes, all athletes, Jonathan, regardless of sport or gender. This is an unfair scenario that is occurring, and when we have the president of the NCAA now advocating to add 4 teams into the playoff scenario.
More money.
So that they can make more money.
More money.
The teams, the universities.
Get me my money, yep.
Makes more money, Charlton. No compensation for any of these amateur athletes. That these guys, and they say, well, they're amateurs. What the hell is the Olympics, Charlton?
Yeah.
You got professional hockey players, you got professional basketball players, you got professional track guys in the Olympics, and you're saying it's an amateur event? Usain Bolt makes millions of dollars a year being the fastest man in the world.
Yeah.
The NBA plays in the Olympics and plays on all of the teams, Charlton, not just the U.S.
Yeah.
But all the countries have players in the NBA, and they're all playing in the Olympics. And so you're telling me that these people are amateurs? No, they're not, Charlton. And so why do we use this masquerade called the NCAA saying that you're protecting amateur athletics, Charlton?
Yeah.
Guys have been paid under the table for years. I'm not going to admit it, but they've been paid under the table for years by universities, by boosters, and all of that.
Yeah.
And the NCAA is well versed and knowledgeable in this. And you go out and you grab a high-profile athlete periodically, like they did your neighbor Reggie.
Hey, don't just blame Reggie. That wasn't Reggie's fault. He was kind of dyslexic. He was dating Kim Kardashian at the time. No one ever thought maybe that money came from here. You ever have a girlfriend give you money, Big C? They said money can't buy your love. Who sang that song? Was it the Beatles? Who sang that song? Well,
the Beatles sung that song.
They were wrong, Big C. Money can buy your love.
But look at this, Jonathan. The NCAA is saying as long as an athlete is impoverished and making a university millions of dollars, it's okay.
Yeah.
But he cannot benefit in any kind of way from his labor that is producing this money.
Yeah.
That is the rule of the NCAA when it comes to college athletics, Charlton. You go out and you labor. You make your overseer,
Yeah.
your coach, your university, millions of dollars, but you're not allowed to benefit beyond a meal, Charlton. That's 400 years ago in America, okay?
Yeah.
You can step back 400 years ago in America, and that was the same rule of thumb for an African American at that time, Charlton. Because
Yeah.
they went out and they made money for their overseers, for their, the plantation owners.
Yeah.
And that's the university, the plantation. You go out, you work hard all day long. You work all through the weekend.
Yeah.
Sunday off. And think about it. College athletes get Sunday off.
Yeah.
Just like the slaves, no different.
Yeah.
Okay? But the rest of the week, you're going to go out and work to make me money. 6 days a week, you're going to go out and work to make me money. We'll give you Sunday off.
Yeah.
But, you're not going to get anything other than a meal. It's no different in America for the athletes, amateur athletes now, than what it was for indigenous people 400 years ago in America.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
when you look at that, at what point will American society step up? We got a president-elect talking about saving jobs in America, creating income.
Yeah.
If he wants to do something, and he tried his hands in sports before and got his butt kicked, all right?
Yeah.
We've seen that. Step into the NCAA. Say, it's unfair labor. What you're doing to these young men that are making you millions of dollars, that they deserve a cut. You want to do something as president-elect of the United States?
Yeah.
Talking about saving jobs, infusing money into the economy.
Yeah.
Get these athletes at all these universities saying, I'm not talking just the majors. I'm talking about going all the way down to the NAIA schools, the ones that ESPN doesn't talk about.
Yeah.
The Division III schools that ESPN doesn't talk about. Because there's not enough money involved in those schools for them to care about.
Yeah.
But you have to care about the athletes on every level, Charlie. So the president-elect, if he wants to do something good for American society, and we're not talking about saving 400 jobs, we're talking about thousands and thousands of college athletes that are out there, Charlie, that are making billions of dollars for all of these universities on all levels and not getting any percentage of it. And when we talk about the two highest paid college coaches, Nick Saban,
Yeah.
Jim Harbaugh,
Yeah.
between these two gentlemen, Charlton, they're making $18 million, okay?
Yeah.
$18 million between two coaches. You gonna tell me they can't break off a little cheese?
Wait, hold on, Dixie. They're making that money. Do they run football routes? Do they block and tackle? Are they playing the game, Big C?
Only thing they're sweating from, Charlton, is blowing the damn whistle.
And that's worth $18 million combined.
Whistle down and stop walking around with a cap on their head. One got a baseball cap, one got a straw cap on his head. Charlton.
Yeah.
Walking around, not stressing on anything. Got a nice air conditioning on and ready to go to after practice.
Yeah.
Where the players are sitting in a hot, sweaty, musty locker room.
Right.
With a bunch of other stinky guys.
You ever walk into a football locker room sometime after you haven't been in it for a while and that smell hits you? It reminds me of Richard Pryor that had these dogs and he was taking them for a walk, and Warner Brothers, he made so much money for them, they gave him a horse instead of money, Big C, and he was taking his dogs for a walk, and the dog said, "What's that smell?" And they said, "It must be the dog across the street." They said, "That ain't no dog, Big C." I know Richard Pryor was a lot funnier than Charlton, Big C, but I think you get my point. And one more thing. Yeah.
That's what it's like. You got all these wet clothes in there, Charlton, all these sweaty, sticky men, and there's no way you can get away from the body. We call it OD.
Yeah. It reminds me of that smell It reminds me of that smell that I smelled when I got up on your Escalade. You guys went fishing, Big C. I said, my goodness. I mean, the fish smelled pretty good to you good old boys. I had to shower in a couple of days trying to blend in with the elements, Big C. But you guys had a lot of fish, that's for sure, Big C. Now, one thing I want to say before we touch on some NFL, and there's a great football game coming up tonight. I don't want to make you upset, Big C, but you talked about universities. The great Alabama, started by the great Paul Bear Bryant before they got beat by USC back in the day, and Sam Bam Cunningham. Hey, it don't even matter what year we won, okay? We won the game. Okay, but your friend, Dabu Swinney, who tells his kids if they stand up for Black Lives Matter to get the hell out of the country, Big C, unless it's Deshaun Watson and the guys in the uniform playing for him, Big C. Now, they're looking at their staff combined, college football playoffs. They pay their 9-man staff more than $5,300,000 a year just for coaching young black kids to go bang their heads up against each other and hopefully don't get CTE, Big C. And 14 schools pay their assistants more than $4 million. I mean, I don't understand why it's just Charlton and Big C Sports talking about this. I'm so tired of the black exploitation. Something that we got to learn, even in the Democratic Party, a lot of people show up in the black communities for two things. Number one, when they want to recruit your athlete, that means your son or your daughter, to come to the university and make them money. And then number two, when they want to get elected. But they're still the last hired, the first fired, in the most marginalized communities. But without the black, if all these young black players went on strike for this college football playoff, there would be over $1 billion lost in total revenue. Even though it was lost, Big C, it would not affect their families whatsoever because the black families don't get paid on the labor of their kids in college, Big C. That may sound like an egregious thing to state, but you know, Rosa Parks sat on the bus for not giving up her seat, and look at what happened in that society. I'm not saying it's going to happen because people are too much of a sycophants to the limelight and the jersey and the baseball hat. But if all these black kids with all this talent, this free labor they're giving out freely, suffering CTE and other illnesses, if they decided to strike unless you paid them, the same way the guys at the union that Donald Trump doesn't like, if they strike if you don't pay them, if you work you don't get paid, some people strike. What if they got a consciousness like Muhammad Ali and decided to strike for this college football national championship scandal that's going on, where they're taking all this money and they're shaking these black boys' hands, and they still got to start? Big C, your thoughts?
What did baseball disappoint last week, Charlton? They disappointed a lockout because they knew the economics of the lockout. It was easy to give the players a larger share and some concessions in the bargaining contract other than locking the players out because of the amount of money that they would lose during training camp, preseason, and probably would roll into the regular season.
Yeah.
When you want to talk about work stoppage in sports, Charlton, NFL has had a couple of them, okay?
Yeah.
The last one that they had, I believe, was in '86. The last work stoppage they had when they had the strike and the players walked out.
Yeah.
And you think about the amount of money that the NFL lost back in 1986, the revenue that they did not get. You didn't get the fans. And again, the fans showed up for 1 or 2 games, but they realized this was not the NFL talent that they were used to seeing. This wasn't the name players that they had seen for decades. And so the NFL realized we're in a losing position here.
Yeah.
We have to share the revenue with the money, with the players. Get the players some of this money that we're making. We have so much of it, we can't spend it all.
Yeah.
And when you look at these universities, Charlton, it's the same scenario. And they may not play a 16-game schedule, but they are 13 games far away, okay?
Yeah, and see that? Yeah, you're right. You're right, Big C. Go right ahead.
But, you know, and so there has to be some revenue. And you think about this, they just have these conference championships. The money from these conference championships, and then when you think about the bowl games, Charlton, look at the amount of money that's going to be paid for bowl games like the Rose Bowl, the Orange Bowl, the Cotton Bowl, the Sugar Bowl. We're talking about splits for each university, Charlton, anywhere between $8 and $12 million that they will receive. $8 to $12 million per university. And think about when Notre Dame's in a bowl game, Charlton.
Yeah.
You know, prior to this season, getting drugged all season long. They didn't have to split with anybody because they were an independent.
Yeah.
And so when they go in, they don't have to split. This is the reason why you don't see schools like Army, who's a Division I school, or Navy get into a big ranked bowl game because they're an academy, so they don't want to give the money back to the government.
Yeah.
So they'll keep them in lower tier games regardless of their record. And you look at Navy's record, I believe they were 10-2 this year.
Yeah, they're a good team.
This is a quality program that can compete with anybody, and I think they beat Notre Dame up and down the field like a wet horse. You know, like
Did you say white horse like USC's horse? Did Notre Dame steal USC's horse, Big C?
It's only right.
Yeah.
And finding justification to pay players.
Yeah.
And anybody who has played college athletics, and there's a whole lot of us out there, Charlton, that alumni base is bigger than anything else in the U.S.
Yeah.
When you think about the number of people in America who have participated in college athletics, that is the largest alumni force in America.
Yeah.
Period.
Well, Big C, when I think about the tragedy that happened with the former Colorado running back Rashad Salam, and take his own life, and if whatever happened, our hearts and thoughts go out to his family. But does his life really matter when he took his uniform off? And this is for a lot of black men that really believe that someone loves you because they tell you they love you. It's like the politician that shows up when he wants your vote and he says, "I love you." Like Donald Trump, I'm going to put $1 billion in the black community. Well, start with getting these black athletes played that are helping make over $1 billion for these white institutions. I mean, if you put your money where your mouth is, that's a cause because it takes the strain off of their parents. And I'm tired of people acting like they're too dumb to understand that bias exists in our society. If you say you love somebody, how do you have $1 billion come into your coffers and you don't even give them $1, Big C? You give them a hat and a pair of Snickers. They can't eat a hat. I mean, some guys down south, I've seen them eat hats, Big C, but most people don't. But they give them a hat and some Snickers, Big C. And if it wasn't for Google, a lot of these sports companies wouldn't even exist because their knowledge stops at the end of their hands, Big C. If the microphone stopped, they wouldn't know what to say because they just know what they're told to say like robots. I want to bring this up before we touch on the NFL. If black lives don't matter, like Dabu Sweeney blatantly said, get the hell out of the country if you don't think this is a great country. And he was talking to Colin Kaepernick because he was standing up for all Americans, but particularly African Americans. And if you see the documentary 13th on Netflix, you'll know exactly what he was standing up for. And just to touch on one more thing, Big C,
This week, okay, there was an incident in Washington, D.C. at a pizza restaurant.
Yeah.
Okay, because of all these fake news stories on television.
Oh, yeah.
There was a white gentleman that goes in with an AR rifle.
I saw.
And releases rounds, okay?
Yeah.
He lived.
Yeah.
Okay? He lived. The cops didn't kill him.
No.
He was white.
Yeah.
You got 20 officers standing there. A black kid is shot.
Yeah.
Dead.
Yeah.
But you had 20 officers surrounding this guy, and they allow him to surrender. They didn't feel that he was enough of a threat standing there with an AR assault rifle and firing off rounds. He wasn't a threat versus a black man who was unarmed.
Yeah.
And you gun him down.
Yeah.
Let's look at Dylan Booth, Chalkin, back in Carolina over a year ago.
Yeah.
That goes into a church full of worshipers and assassinates 9 black people, Chalkin.
Yeah.
9. Now, if you were a black man walking into a white parish and you kill 9 people, you're not going to live.
No, you're not.
Period.
No.
There's no way you're going to live. You're a threat now.
Yeah.
So to eliminate that threat, you're going to shoot him.
Yeah.
You shoot him a dozen times, you're going to look like a pencil when you're done with it.
Well, see.
But, when you look at that example, Charles, and we talk, and people want to say, well, no, the cops are doing their job. Okay, why do you not feel that the white guy with an assault weapon that he's firing in public, in a public place, is not a threat?
There's some deep-seated.
Black kid, think
Yeah.
about this. This
Yeah.
is a black kid in Cleveland that's 12 years old.
Yeah.
He's in a park by himself with a toy gun. And you run up and you shoot him without even giving him a chance.
Yeah.
With a toy gun. Because you felt that he was a threat. So, when you think about the parallels of how things are handled in society, Charles, it's black and white. If he's black, he's a threat, whether he's armed or not. If he's a white guy with an assault weapon, he's not a threat because
Yeah.
he looks like me.
Yeah, and that's why I love the show Charlton and Big C Sports, because more than just giving you a score, I just know that when people talk about Black Lives Matter, and they do to these colleges because they need them to play sports, if you get education, that's great. If you get drafted, that's great. But make me my money while you give me all this free labor. Good luck if you have CTE or some other issue, or God forbid something happens to you the way Rashad Salam took his life. We don't know if it was CTE or not, Big C.
Dislocate that hip.
Yeah. Yeah.
Destroy that throwing shoulder.
Yeah, it's the same thing. And my white brethren, they know I'm telling the truth because they see the bias too. And so I hope that all of us, and not just 2 African-American broadcasters, can bring up this issue. I know there are a lot of black Americans that are shaking in their boots because they think if they tell the truth, they're going to get fired. Well, maybe you stand for nothing. Just let your kids tell the truth for you if you're too afraid. But I just want to say, I hope that this discussion will start on the national media level, where you don't have this black labor that contributes to over $1 billion with a B. And most of it goes, I think all the presidents of the Division I schools, 89% are white men. So you have all these black guys, about 80% in the top schools, working for 89% of the white men to help them build trust funds for their kids and grandkids, and they can bequeath insurance policies and trust funds to their kids. What does the black family have? What do they have?
National sportscasters out there. We 85-90% are white.
Yeah.
So the national sportscasters. We did a scenario on our show last night.
Yeah.
When we were talking about Danny Cannell.
Yeah.
He was this backup quarterback.
Who's Danny Cannell, Big C?
Well, he was this backup who watched a lot of all-pro quarterbacks.
Okay. Oh, that's the guy that won a national championship at Auburn? Is that the guy?
Yeah, so he became an expert at watching professional football for him,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's what he was. And we had a question and answer scenario on our show last night where you were talking about Google.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And ironically, On Mike and Mike this morning on ESPN, they played the same skit.
Oh, yeah, Google, yeah.
Yeah. Canal out because he's a co-worker.
Yeah.
Speaking about his lack of knowledge.
Yeah, well,
we told the truth.
Yeah.
Here's a guy that ESPN has hired.
Yeah.
That is a so-called expert on breaking down talent.
Yeah.
And telling you about the do's and don'ts.
Yeah.
But he's an expert at holding a clipboard, y'all. So he's an expert
Yeah.
at reading. All right? Taking
Yeah.
notes. That's what he does on his show.
Yeah.
He's an expert at reading and taking notes. That's what backup quarterbacks do. And that was his professional career.
Yeah.
Because when he was at Florida State, Charlton,
Yeah.
he played with a lot of guys who played in the NFL for a long time. Not on teams like he was.
Yeah.
They played. They got him into the league.
Yeah.
But when he was there, he was a career backup, just like Trent Dilfer.
Yeah.
Trent Dilfer is expert on ESPN, Charlton, had one starting year in the NFL where he won double-digit games. And that was 10-game season once.
Yeah.
In his entire pro career, did he have a season that he quarterbacked the team to a double-digit season?
No.
That was a 10-win season in Tampa Bay. But he's an expert. He's more knowledgeable than anyone else out there.
Yeah.
Yet Steve Young won a Super Bowl as the starting quarterback.
Yeah.
Made the playoffs on many occasions.
Yeah.
But they hold Dilfer in higher esteem because he is not as intelligent as Steve Young.
Yeah, Steve Young's a lawyer too, so he's very erudite guy. But even Mike and Mike, if they took off the TV producer's earplug and the teleprompter shut down, they couldn't do a show. In fact, and I like what they do, but most of their show, they bring in other people to fill in time because they can't go that deep, Big C. And I challenge them to try it, for a week. Do your show, no producer, no teleprompter. Send them all on vacation and just have real talk. They can't do it, Big C. They can't do it either.
They're better off with the teleprompter than the producer.
Yeah, that's true.
Almost like being a ventriloquist. That's what these producers and directors are.
Yeah.
They're ventriloquists, Charlton. They're feeding everything in these ears, the girls' ears, and I love this.
Yeah. I love it too, yeah.
But, when I sit up and I'm looking at these pretty faces that they're putting on television.
Yeah.
But they're empty when it comes to sports.
Yeah, well, look it up. Think about this, Big C. Could you imagine being on a date with somebody you like? You've been trying to date this girl for a long time. You finally go out on a date with her, maybe just sitting down at the pizza place having a bicep pizza, and every few minutes somebody comes by and they know both of you, say they want to sit down and talk to you. Doesn't that destroy the chemistry of your date, Big C? You might not mind saying hi for 5 seconds, but they sit down they give them like 10-minute segments on their program. That's like having a date, and every 10 minutes somebody comes by and wants to meet you and talk with you. It destroys this chemistry, but that's what they do to fill in time. And I like these guys, but they can't do real talk extemporaneously the way we do, Big C.
You need to have some emotion and passion when you're dealing with sports, okay? That's what's real about sports. Sports are spontaneous, they're full of emotion, and they're full of passion.
Yeah.
But when I'm sitting there and I'm worried about how my makeup looks, how my lips...
You wear makeup too, Big C? I thought that was mud I saw under your eyes when I saw you last time, Big C.
All I know is about once a year, okay?
Yeah. But let me just real quick. Who's your friend that looks like Chewbacca? That big hairy dude. He looks like Duck Dynasty, Big C. I tell him I'm sorry. I'm sorry for making fun of him. I didn't know he was a real person. He's so hairy, Big C. But he's still mad at me for some reason. But I apologize. Okay, just let him know that, Big C.
When these people are more concerned about their look, I see no passion anymore in a broadcast on television, Charlton. None.
Yeah.
None whatsoever. Because if you had passion, then you wouldn't be reading.
Yeah.
You gotta stay stone-faced because you're sitting there reading it and you're trying to keep the lines straight on the prompter or your notes on the paper.
Yeah.
You don't see people turn away and look at each other, Charlton, and get animated in a conversation.
Yeah.
They stay the script. This is scripted television that we get now for sports shows. It's not a person who's understanding the game. It's a person who can articulate and read. That's all that is. They can enunciate.
Yeah.
They're not doing anything else. They don't get off track. They stay right where they were written down to read.
Well,
and so that's what's missing from these shows.
Yeah.
Give me some passion about the game. I remember the great Bill King.
Yeah.
Who was a broadcaster for the Raiders and the A's and the Warriors.
Yeah. He did all three. Yeah.
And here's a man that when he broadcasted a game, there was nothing but emotion in a game. And when you listen to Bill King, he made you feel like you were there, like he was at home with you.
Yeah.
And you appreciated listening to his broadcast. But he did radio. But you got these television people talking that don't have any compassion. And that's what we grew up on, with more radios and television. But I remember sitting at home in front of a round black and white television.
Yeah.
Okay? And so when you got a broadcast, you listen to more on radio, and I learned baseball.
Yeah.
So listen to radio. You would sit there and you would be riveted to that radio speaker.
Yeah.
Understanding what this broadcaster has given you. He was part of your family.
Yeah.
Because he was interested in how you felt listening to the broadcast.
Yeah.
Now it's about who's designing their clothes on television.
Yeah.
By so-and-so.
Yeah.
It's about the wardrobe.
Yeah.
Brain. That's what I want. I want some brain. I don't care who made your tie, your shirt, your jacket,
Yeah.
your dress. Give me a brain. And until ESPN brings some brains on, until Fox brings some brains on, and having brains is not having two people arguing each other.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
That's not sports.
Yeah.
Because you want to be animated and argue back and forth.
Yeah, you're talking Stephen A. Smith, who's yelling. I mean, stop yelling. Laugh sometimes. Breathe. You're making 7 figures. Breathe, brother. It's all right, man. Last thing I want to say, this final segment is sponsored by Beneath His Wings Foundation.org and CYNN Entertainment. When it comes to promotions, Cynthia Evans, she's the best in Northern California. Let them know that Charlton and Big C sent you. Big C, the final few minutes, I just want to touch on this great game on Thursday night. It really will set the playoff brackets, I think, for at least the AFC West and perhaps the entire AFC. You have the Oakland Raiders, going into the frozen tundra of Kansas City, Missouri, playing at Arrowhead Stadium. Should be at packed house. The game kicks off moments from now, Big C. Just want to get your thoughts on what you expect to see. We're not into predicting who's going to win or not, but in the last minute or so, Big C, what does it take for the Raiders to win, and what does it take for Kansas City to win? Your thoughts, Big C?
Well, this is a game that the NFL sorely wants the Raiders to win, Charles, and trust me, because if they can have a team that's separated from the pack, it's great for the NFL. If you got 3 teams that are sitting there at 10-3, you got this cluster where you really can't figure anything out to that last week of the season. So, the NFL would love to see for the Raiders to win, but the biggest problem that the Raiders have, Charlton, is that they lack a running game, okay?
Yeah.
They've had one 100-yard rushing game all season long, Charlton, through 11 games, 12 games. One 100-yard rushing game. You're not going to win a championship like that. They have this huge, expensive offensive line, but it was built.
Oh, yeah.
Very hard to throw the ball.
There's some good old boys there.
You look at their receiving core, they do a marvelous job. And we talked about this, that he spends 90% of the game, Charlton, in the shotgun.
Yeah.
And that makes it difficult for the read on the run plays, Charlton, because you have a running back that's generally moving laterally instead of going straight forward, trying to figure out where the hole is.
Yeah.
Kansas City has 2 backs. They have that dual threat in the backfield as well as the mobility of an Alex Smith.
Yeah.
Now, both teams have great outside rushing, which is a big difference in the game. But the Raiders have the weaker of the 2 secondaries.
Yeah.
You remember what Kansas City did to Atlanta and the hot Matt Ryan last week? They shut him down and turned 2 picks for touchdowns last week, Jonathan.
Yeah.
So they faced the quarterback last week that's equal to Derek Carr. So they understand going against great receivers in Julio Jones and Mohamed Sanu last week in Atlanta.
Yeah.
This is a defense that's prepared to win in Kansas City. Alex Smith does what it takes. He doesn't get the publicity of a car, but he does enough within his offense to keep his team consistent. And he's won more games, Charlton, in the NFL in the last 2 years than any other starting quarterback.
Well, I tell you, Big C, it's a great atmosphere. It's a playoff-type atmosphere. These 2 teams go back a long way, and they love playing this game. I even love the contrast, the red and white versus the silver and black. No matter who wins this game, it should be a great game. I would love to see the Raiders win because I love seeing the Super Bowl come out to the West Coast, Big C. And I also want to tell you, no matter who you are and what you do, if you want to make something happen, be responsible for it. Don't put your success in the hands of other people. When you want to get real sports talk every Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time, follow Charlton and Big C Sports on the iHeartRadio network, the #1 media network in the United States. And we also want to say there's never any room for domestic violence. If you know any woman going through trouble, just call 911. Don't make her go through this garbage on her own. And as we always tell you, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.